This is an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder.
One of the other things we touched on very briefly when we chatted last time is the fact that you were actually at the Ambassador Hotel the night that Robert Kennedy was killed in the kitchen downstairs after making that speech. Where exactly were you in the hotel at that time?
Well, I had been covering Bobby Kennedy in the summer of 1968. I think it was, or was it 69? I tell you, whatever year it was.
It was 68.
68. Okay,
Yeah.
Then I was right. In the summer of 68, I traveled with Bobby Kennedy throughout California because everybody in London and anywhere around the world thought he was going to become the next president. And winning California was a vital way to the convention. And so after Bobby acknowledged that he'd won California, he beat out Eugene McCarthy. And so we'd got to know him. We'd traveled with him. We'd seen the way people were adoring him. His hands were swollen and bruised from all the hands that he shook. And so he made the speech and said, "On to Chicago." And then we followed him to a press conference that was going to be in another room. And as we followed him through the kitchen, and it took him through the kitchen, I'm not sure why, maybe it was a shortcut, I suddenly heard balloons popping. I thought they were balloons, but they weren't because there was screaming. And I was 15 yards behind. I came to the door of the kitchen. Stephen Smith, who was Bobby's brother-in-law and a campaign manager, tried to stop me coming through. I said, "What's going on in there?" And I kind of pushed my way in, and there was Bobby lying on the floor in the arms of Ethel. She was screaming, "Give him air." And then 5 yards away, there was a small figure under about 6 bodies who was struggling. And it was, you've got to imagine, it was bedlam. It was women screaming, "Not again." And Bobby lying there looking pretty awful, and Ethel desperately looking for a doctor. And it's one of those signs. And by the way, my photographer, who's a famous photographer now called Harry Benson, who was traveling with me on the Bobby trip, was on the kitchen table taking pictures. I guess he was doing his job, of course. He was doing his job. And that image is forever etched in my mind, one that you cannot get rid of. And then we went to the hospital. We hung around at the hospital. And then I think it was Mankiewicz, his press man, came up several hours later and announced that Bobby was dead.
You've just heard an exclusive excerpt from the Stuph File Program with Peter Anthony Holder. To hear any or all of the full hour-long shows, visit thestufffile.com. Stuph is spelled S-T-U-P-H. That's thestufffile.com. A presentation of Flying Fish Communications.